Hi, and welcome to another edition of Probeline. I'd like to thank the good folks at the Aspen Thrift Shop for making this possible and giving us the opportunity to help you get to know candidates running for public office better. Today we're going to be interviewing Michael Buglione, who wants to be your next Pitkin County Sheriff. My name is Reid Haughy, and I'm a co-host with
Ann Mullins.
Ann Mullins. And Ann's going to talk a little bit about how and where to vote.
Okay, just as important as getting to know all these candidates, we need everybody to get out and vote. And Pitkin County makes it very easy. They have a website, pitkinvotes.com. It has all the information you need on it. Your ballots have been mailed on the 24th. October 24th, early voting begins. November 8th is Election Day from 7 to 7. You can mail your ballot, you can drop it off, or you can vote in person. And you can also, through the website, track the ballot. Also, register to vote. You have to be 16, a citizen of the U.S., and have lived in Colorado for 22 days, and you can register as a Colorado voter. And then last, where to vote. The voting service and polling centers. Until the 6th, it'll be the Pitkin County Administration building and the Sheriff's Office. And then Election Day, the Administration Building, Jewish Community Center in Aspen, Snowmass Village Hall, Basalt Regional Library. They're all ADA accessible, and they'll all be open 7 to 7. So please vote and go to Pitkin County, go to pitkinvotes.com for any more information.
Thanks, Ann.
Yep.
Michael, welcome to Probeline.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you taking the time. And maybe we could start. I'm curious. I'll tell you what I know. You used to be a deputy.
Mm-hmm.
You're not a deputy now.
Correct.
And you're running for sheriff, and I don't know why.
I'm running for sheriff because I want to. I've laid out my platform on March 4th of this year, and I haven't wavered since. We need to increase the mental health and substance abuse resources in Pitkin County. We also need to make Pitkin County, it's a safe place to live, we all know that. We can make it safer. There's ways to mitigate traffic accidents as a whole state study and team that is working on that. I have part of their report, of which I've read and digging into deeper. To make the school safer without making it look like a fortress. And I know the school's working on that. I met with the superintendent as well as the assistant superintendent and introduced the company to them that once activated, it would notify first responders in 3 to 4 seconds of a catastrophic event. I did that as a proactive parent and grandparent and citizen. I don't know if the school went with that system. It was pretty amazing when I saw the demonstration as past law enforcement, knowing that I'm getting a text to my phone that something's going on in this particular classroom at this particular school. I thought it was pretty amazing. We don't, in my opinion, need a bigger, more expensive jail outside the city. With money that we don't build a new jail with, we can provide housing for deputies in Aspen, Basalt, Snowmass, rural Pitkin County to be part of the community where they become known, recognized, and trusted. So those are the 4 that I've run on since March 4th and have not wavered.
And you were a deputy.
Yes, sir.
Now you're not.
Mm-hmm.
But what then inspired? I mean, what's lacking? You know, you want to do this better, but
I think lacking is leadership. I think lacking is participation. I've been a full-time, hands-on sheriff. The office of the sheriff requires someone to be here full-time, locally based. I'm putting my more energy into it, and than I believe the current sheriff is.
So, and how would you do this differently than what the current sheriff is doing? What would you change internally to make it work?
I don't think anything has to change internally. No, nothing needs to. Policing, law enforcement will still happen the way it has under Joe, under Bob, under Dick Keenest. You know, philosophy is spirit of the law and not letter of the law, and be more humanistic approach towards law enforcement.
Yeah.
Let me.
So,
Oh,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
sorry. I was just going to jump in and build on that a little bit. We'll be getting a new police chief in Aspen, and on the websites, your missions are very, very similar. The description of what the sheriff's office is doing and the police department. What would you like to see in a new police chief? How do you think? Are you working well, or is the sheriff's office working well with the police department? Room for improvement? Just your thoughts on that.
As far as I know, they're working well. I haven't heard anything different. I
Yeah.
actually sat down with Chief Pryor several months ago, and he said everything is running well between the two. I think, to answer your other question, I think the city should focus on someone locally based. That, you know, we are unique, okay, city and the county as well. The city, 20 years ago, brought in someone from the outside, didn't work as well, they didn't last as long. I think he just used it as a stepping stone to get a chief's job in a bigger department. I just wish that they would not necessarily hire within the police department, but definitely hire within local law enforcement to take that new role as chief.
Okay, but you do think your missions are somewhat
Yes.
similar? Yeah. So that's a very good start.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
Well, and I harken back to the time when the police department and the sheriff's office cohabitated in the county. It seemed to really increase the cooperation. At least that was my sense of it, between the two agencies, and there are mutual support agreements, that sort of thing. But on a day-to-day basis, it seemed very close. Does it still? Well, how long have you been out of the department, out of the sheriff's office?
3 years.
Okay, so you have some understanding of what the current situation is.
Sure. Sure, because I worked for the Aspen Police Department when we did share the same patrol
Right.
room
Yeah.
with the sheriff's office. And the two, they were called patrol directors back then, offices were side by side. And there was a camaraderie, probably more so than it is today because of the separation. But we grow, people need bigger buildings, so that was just a result of functionality of new police building, new sheriff's office building. But I'm sure they still back each other up and work well together as we did 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you get into law enforcement?
I got into law enforcement. I was talking to Joe, and this is 1994, 95, I forget the exact year. And I was leaning or in his doorway of his office, and Chief Tom Stevenson came up behind me, and he said, "Michael, do you ever think about becoming a cop?" I said, "Never." He goes, "Perfect." Okay. Because that's what we want. We want people who are part of the community and didn't ever want to become a cop and make that person who's part of the community a police officer instead of trying to take a wannabe cop and making them a citizen of Pitkin County or Aspen. That's how I got into it. Never thought I would do it. New York, when I grew up, never thought I'd do it. Once I got into it, I loved it.
Yeah.
And still do.
And what's rewarding about it?
Just everything. Everything's rewarding about it. Your interaction with people. You're helping victims. You're helping. You're creating something better. You're not being called because people are having fun. Okay. Usually, people dialing 911 because bad things are happening, and if you can make that bad situation a little better, then that's fulfilling. It might involve an arrest,
Yeah.
It probably will involve an arrest depending on the situation and the nature of the call. But you just made someone's life a little more peaceful because someone is not bothering anymore, whatever the circumstances are. And that's rewarding.
Yeah.
And that can kind of roll into another question about a fairly hot issue that you just mentioned, the new jail. In terms of improvements to the jail, you are not for enlarging the jail.
Correct.
What about, is it adequate? Is the programming adequate? Are we treating people as well they should be treated? Are they getting the help they need? You're saying you're in this to help people.
No, I
Okay.
don't believe they are.
Okay.
A lot of programs have been removed. Well, from what I understand, they're still not back in our jail. They're still down in Garfield County. That's a different world from our jail. We, under Don Bird's watch, again, it was a more humanistic approach, direct supervision, sitting in there with the incarcerated people, getting to know them every day. And now you might see a slight difference in their behavior and eating habits and everything else. So it gets you to know what's going on with incarcerated person A, where you wouldn't know that by just talking to them via an intercom and seeing them on a camera. The direct supervision jail works. It's a known model that works. And we don't have that many inmates here where we can't still make it work.
In addition to that, what about the the detox program now? The recovery resources program, is that working well?
Janelle, yes. From what I understand, that is it's working very well
Okay.
up near HHS. Yes.
Okay, because that's a fairly new program, kind of innovative, and so good to hear.
I've met with her a couple times and got a tour and got to pick her brain, and it looks and sounds like it's working great.
Good.
So to be effective in this community policing model, if I can put it that way, how do you proactively reach out to people? How do you kind of keep the lid on, if you will? Maybe that's a bad way to put it, but to be involved enough that things don't escalate.
In people's day-to-day lives?
Yeah, isn't that part of the more humane way of doing law enforcement in Pitkin County and City of Aspen is to be involved in the community?
Exactly. Be
Yeah.
part of the community. Sir Robert Peel, people are the police, police are the people. 1840, I believe he said that. And that's where we need to be. That's why I want to get housing for deputies. And that includes jailers, dispatchers, as well as road deputies. So their neighbor sees the patrol car move in. They're like, okay, I got a deputy living in my neighborhood. Get to know him, get to know her, whoever it is. And I think it gains trust, and that deputy becomes recognized and known, and is at Saturday market, or is at Thursday night concerts in Snowmass, or is at the Basalt, whatever, and not living in Rifle and Silt. And if you want to live in Rifle and Silt because you can afford a home there, more power to you. But for those who can't, I'd like to provide that housing for them.
Is your sense that most of the deputies live out of the county?
A lot do. I don't have the exact number,
Yeah.
but a lot do.
And then more on that housing. I mean, the fire department has just completed the 17 units. Do you see that as a model for what the sheriff's office could do? And if you do, where would you get the money? Where would you get the money, the funding for that?
I like what the fire department did, and I was on the board while that was happening, and proud to be part of that. What I don't want is your housing tied to your job. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and I don't want to build anything more. If Pitkin County can invest and provide this housing for already, for existing units somewhere, that would be my preference. I don't want to build something. I also don't want everybody living together in the same spot, all the deputies, building housing for deputies somewhere. And you work with them, you live with them. I think that model has worked for the Aspen Police Department, but I think what hasn't worked is, again, your housing being tied to your job. My model looks similar to the fire department model, where you have a yearly lease, and each year you need to show that you're in the APCHA lottery. And when your number comes up, and you get to purchase a home, a unit, wherever it is, now, if you want to become an Aspen cop, you can become an Aspen cop, and you don't lose your housing. If you want to open up a florist, because you're tired of law enforcement. Yet your job is not tied to your housing. So so I envision let's call it the sheriff's housing as temporary housing. Now, temporary could be a few years, as we know, till you win that lottery. So that's the way I envision it happening.
Okay, interesting.
I want to make sure I understand that housing would be available in this model for deputies. Hi, welcome to Pitkin County. You're hired. If you can't find a place to live, we may have this place.
Correct.
But once you move here, you're expected to stay in the lottery, and if something becomes available, you move out.
Correct.
Okay.
But you're still a deputy.
Right.
Right.
Right. But it is that stepping stone too.
Right.
Okay.
It's a stepping stone to get these people some permanent housing, which we know has been a problem for decades, and so they can keep their job and raise their family here and be part of the community.
Yeah.
The basics of community policing.
So when you were with the sheriff's department, you did patrol work. Did you do administrative work? I mean, did you get to the point where
I did. I loved my time in patrol. That's when you work alongside the community. You get to know the community and deal with them every day. I was promoted. I was a director of operations and as well as a sergeant.
What are those positions? What for someone who's not in that world?
Director of operations, I would say, is third in charge.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
oversees the
there's an
sergeants.
undersheriff.
Right, undersheriff, director of operations. There used to be a captain's position. I'm not sure if that still exists
Yeah.
within the sheriff's office, and then the sergeants, and then patrol. Corporal, then patrols.
Okay.
Okay. So, are you done?
Sure.
Okay. Another hot topic. You would be in charge of airport security, the sheriff's office.
Okay.
What are your thoughts about airport? What's going on? Expansion of services, runway, terminal. There's a lot being proposed out there.
Well, when you say sheriff's office in charge of security, what?
I got that from the website, that the sheriff is in charge of airport security.
Okay, on the land side, we'll call it that. Once you go through TSA, it's
Okay.
a different story.
Yeah. Okay. So you
Well,
can explain exactly what the role of the sheriff is.
sheriff's office we get
Yeah.
called to some kind of disruption amongst passengers once they got through TSA. The airport, I think the terminal, we definitely need a new terminal. I kind of like the idea of the runway the way it is. As far as more security there, they already, or we used to, the sheriff's office used to do airport security checks, walk through, check luggage, check this, walk through the TSA area, get to know the TSA agents, hang out,
Right.
watch what they're looking for in the X-ray machines. And I think that's it, just being visible there.
Yeah.
Being visible there when it's a snowy day and planes are canceled and they're mobbing the counter to get their tickets changed. And
Well, any incidents out there too would fall under the emergency preparedness
yes,
aspect of the sheriff's office too, correct?
yes.
Okay. And any
They've
thoughts on that?
No, the last few years where we've had some incidents of planes going off runways or crashing, the response from all responders and the agreements that are signed between all the agencies, it's pretty flawless. Yeah, that won't change.
Okay.
And you'd mentioned wanting to improve mental health and substance treatment. As a sheriff, how do you do that?
You collaborate with local, regional, and state stakeholders. I met with some folks out at HHS, and there are plans to build a building, because you don't want mental health as tied to your jail. It's just a bad model. These people going through a mental health crisis don't know they're going to a mental health facility, they think they're going to jail, which is going to make the problem worse. It should be separate.
Okay.
Alcohol, mental health, substance abuse, homeless could all be housed under one roof. And I met a few months ago with some folks out there and saw plans on how it could work. Told it was a pipe dream, but now I understand the pipe dream is much less of a pipe dream than it was just a few months ago. So that would be something I would like to be part of spearheading to make that happen. To increase, instead of waiting months to go to Pueblo, have someone that can come here and check on someone's exactly what their mental health is, instead of waiting months in jail to go to Pueblo.
For those who don't know, Pueblo is the state hospital, state mental hospital.
Thank you for clarifying. We do have homeless here. We do have people with substance abuse. That could all be within this facility, by the hospital, near HHS, and there wouldn't be a lot of not in my backyard. I'm sure there will be, but there won't be much.
Right. And is your sense that a lot of the folks who are in the jail are there not necessarily because of their legal problems, but because of substance abuse or mental health issues?
Or they can't bond out, which is a lot of it, and mental health issues, waiting to be seen, or they're sentenced and they're carrying out their sentence.
Tell me about bonding out. They can't bond out.
They don't have the money. They may have a warrant and it's $1,000 bond, and they just can't get hold of that money to get out. So they spend their time in jail until they're seen in the court.
And there really is no public purpose to them being in jail.
Right. They need
At
to go
that
back to
point.
their jobs or family or whatever they need to do.
Yeah.
What is the capacity of the jail?
24 beds.
Okay, and when you were a deputy, was it often that it was at full capacity, or had
Rare.
rare? And
Rare. I check the inmate count every day, and it's usually a third to half of its capacity.
okay, and then you mentioned some inmates are in Garfield County,
And that's right,
and why is that?
because this jail's still being improved, from what I understand. And they're
Oh,
still
okay.
spending time in Garfield County. So we have the expense of bringing them back and forth for court hearings.
Okay, so that's a temporary situation.
Temporary, that's been, I believe, going on for close to 18 months.
Okay. Long temporary.
And that's to allow the jail to operate as a smaller jail so that certain things can be improved? Is that your understanding?
Could you ask that again? I'm sorry.
Inmates are going to Garfield County because the capacity at the jail is being reduced so that improvements can be made to the jail. Did I hear that right?
They're in Garfield County because I believe the sheriff deemed the jail unsafe until it's remodeled or something, or a new one is created. Or
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's seen as an inadequate facility that can't take some, but can take other inmates?
the work release people are there again, and the other standard incarcerated people are down in Garfield County.
Okay.
It's kind of switching topics. Again, you were how long were you with the police, and then how long as a deputy?
5 with the Essen Police and 12 with the Sheriff's
Okay.
Office.
That's your 17. Yeah,
Yeah.
I read that. 17
Yeah.
years. While you were deputy, in your perception, was the department well enough funded? Was there something that you could have been doing that you couldn't because of funding? This is kind of similar to Reid's question. If you became sheriff, what would you be pushing for? What a new staff, a new program? What would biggest bang for the buck if you could?
More deputies.
Oh, okay.
More
staff.
deputies.
Yeah.
We're a growing community. The amount of traffic on the highway, I don't know how many construction vehicles come up every morning. in the thousands. Focus on where the problems are on the highway. We do not need a boat on Root Eye Reservoir. I think that's a waste of resources, taxpayer dollars. Because you need 2 deputies on a boat. That could be 2 deputies in 2 cars patrolling the roads of Pitkin County.
Right.
Being visible, slowing people down. So yes, I think we can use a few more deputies. I know BOCC has the final word on that.
Yeah.
I would like another school resource officer.
Why?
Best practice is 1 to every 1,500.
Students.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know if that includes staff or just students. Maybe students and staff. I'm not sure. But then down at the bottom it says school districts, more than one school SRO should be in each school. So in Aspen, we need 1 in each school, elementary, middle, high. We also need to, and I used to do this when I was a deputy, is tell the young guys to get up there and get to know those schools. Okay, because the school resource officer may have to go to Glenwood for a meeting, and he or she may not be there. And get to know those schools, get to know the teachers, get to know the staff. They don't want to just see, Cam is great. Cam is a great SRO. Students love him, parents love him, teachers love him. But he might not be there. He's got to take vacation. Let's get these deputies to be there and just slip right in and know what his daily routine is, and know it and polish it and just slip right in when he's not there.
Yeah.
So I would like to see, again, just more deputies to be able to do that.
I'm old enough that there were never police in the schools.
Yes, I'm as
So
old.
I'm basically your curmudgeon here. I don't understand what school resource officers are doing in schools, and why we might need more.
When I say more, not 2 walking around the high school, just one more for the middle school, elementary school, and then more deputies just for the people of Pitkin County to service them the way they need to be serviced. Instead of having 2 on patrol, have 3 on patrol, have 4 on patrol on heavier weekends, Labor Day, 4th of July. A school resource officer, as a parent and grandparent, I think is very important. They get to know the kids. The kids get to know them, which is more important. Hopefully he or she becomes a trusted adult to them. Their office should not be in a fishbowl. Last I heard that it was out in the middle, outside the cafeteria, and you didn't have. You used to be back in the admin office. So now if a student has an issue, he's being watched going into the SRO office. So there needs to be it needs to be in a place that kids feel safe going to. So I would change that. And the school resource officer he's there or she's there for that catastrophic event, okay? But they're also there to help these kids, counsel them, find out what's going on at home if there's problems. So they're probably more counselor than they are law enforcement.
Okay. So why wouldn't that person be a counselor instead of
Because
a
that
sheriff's
counselor is not
deputy?
ready for that catastrophic event.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. So here's another switch topic change. BOCC is adamant about addressing climate change and various ways of asking each of the departments to help with mitigating climate change. What could you do in the Sheriff's Department?
Well, it's funny because I have some notes here about switching up to at least hybrid, if not all electric vehicles.
Okay.
But because we do patrol roughly shy of 1,000 square miles, 947, something like that, and sometimes calls turn into overnight calls or or longer. And if you have an electric vehicle and it's winter,
Oh,
that electric vehicle may not work for a patrol officer. It can work for a civil deputy, it can work for the sheriff, the undersheriff, maybe even the director of operations. I think as technology gets better with electric vehicles, that could certainly happen in the future. But because, again, just the terrain and every place else that deputies go in Pitkin County, I don't think it's, at this point, sensible to put them in a fully electric vehicle.
okay. Good point.
What's it like to be formerly kind of in the fold of the sheriff's office and now being the outside guy who wants to change things? How did that happen?
I don't have a problem with going back to the people I worked with there and meeting the new people that have been hired since. I look forward to it. I've met a few of them that have been hired after I left, and I'm very comfortable with that. Very comfortable going back to that. And how did it happen?
Yeah.
Joe and I just kind of parted ways. I didn't like the direction, and I guess he didn't like my direction, and we just parted ways.
You know, if you read the paper, it sounds like a bro spat. You know, that there, and it may be that people have trumped that up, but that there is this kind of what's the right word? This animosity that's developed between the two of you.
I'm treating this as if Joe was the sheriff, not as Joe as an old friend, or ex-brother-in-law, whatever it is. I want the position, not the title. Okay,
Yeah.
I want to do these things that I told you earlier, and I haven't seen anything happen in 12 years. You know, this housing crisis is not a new crisis. People should have seen it coming down the road a long time ago. So I feel I can bring new energy and fresh blood to the sheriff's office and do a better job.
Okay. Great. So let's say you got elected. It's now 4 years into your term, and you're up for re-election. What do you hope to be proud of and have managed to accomplish by then?
Hopefully we have housing for deputies. Hopefully the current jail is renovated and made future-proof, that we don't have to build a new jail, and the current one, better, safer, is okay. Sorry, I got distracted.
I know, I heard that. Heard something in the background.
And this possible pipe dream of mental health, substance abuse, homeless, is coming out of the ground, let's say. That can happen. I believe in term limits, and I think 3 should be the limit. I think if you can't do what you set out to do in 12 years, you should probably leave office. And quite frankly, I think that goes for many offices, not just the sheriff's office.
Yeah, there is something to be said about new blood, new energy to move things. But it's also, I think it's fascinating that in Aspen and Pitkin County, this tradition of policing, this way of going about it remains. But the community's changed a lot. And how does the sheriff's office change with that? You know, it isn't the blue jean wearing 70s of when Bob was first, early 80s when Bob was first around, and the whole conversation about how do we enforce drug laws and whatnot. But it's a different world now. How does the sheriff's office move forward with that? What changes?
You have to keep up with the changes, okay? And the changes are, you have to see them coming down the road. Okay, I know COVID was a game changer. We didn't expect
Right.
the influx of
Right.
lots of, I'll say, city people moving
Yeah.
here, and that's great. This is their new home. We need to welcome them and embrace them like they were back coming in the '70s, and cops were wearing blue jeans. And I think the pendulum has swung a little to the right in the sheriff's office. There's no blue jeans anymore. There's stripes on uniforms, and that was not a Dick Keenis or Bob Broadus philosophy. As far as how are we going to change with the people coming, I think they're moving here to kind of change the way they're living and be more like us. I don't think we become more like them.
Yeah.
So
So maybe we should take the stripes off. And,
that's what I'm thinking.
yeah.
Yeah,
I like that idea.
so do I.
Yeah. How are we on time?
I don't know.
I've got a couple
Please.
specific questions again.
Okay.
A couple more. Again, talking about traffic, safety, everything. Do you have any thoughts on the entrance to Aspen? What would make it the easiest
it.
for the sheriff's department?
It's in the city of Aspen, so it's not, and CDOT owns the
well,
highway.
part of it is outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the county line's just out there by Buttermilk. But
Yeah.
no, to answer your question, you know, I remember my dad and mom coming here visiting long, long time ago, and my dad was reading the paper and they were talking about the entrance to Aspen, and
For years.
yeah. And he said, boy, there's a controversy about everything. It seems like if someone invented fire here, they'd complain about it. You know? And I'll never forget that. People have their different sides. Without knowing all the deeper politics of it, it needs to be changed. Castle Creek Bridge needs to be rebuilt, rechanged. You know, where it is currently, it's going to be hard to make it wider. So we do need to think outside the box and look for a better way to get all this traffic that's coming into Aspen in safely and timely and out safely and timely. If that Castle Creek Bridge goes down, ever collapses, there's not many ways out because it's collapsing on Power Plant Road. So that puts that out of the question. So we have the Moralt Bridge, which wouldn't hold that, you know, the capacity wouldn't be very high.
Right, because it's not only the traffic that's an issue here, it's having a second evacuation route out of
And if it's the wintertime, as we know, we're not going east.
Right, even though some people try. That's another one of your duties, right? Get up there and get those trucks back down.
Yes.
What about, talking of emergencies, wildfire preparedness? That's a sheriff's office duty also.
Right.
Any thoughts about how that's going, if you need to change it, if you think we're doing all we need to be doing?
I think the emergency manager is doing an amazing job with that, getting the word out there, educating people, along with the local fire departments, and getting out there and assessing people's homes, where they need to cut back, brush, etc. They can't make everybody do it,
Right.
but the people who want to do it, they will be protected. People do need to have their go bags, as it's called, in case a wildfire does come. We have to evacuate. Know where you're going to go when evacuated. Have a plan.
Right.
And I think the emergency manager is doing a great job at getting that out there.
Okay.
And there are enough resources, you figured, devoted to that?
To getting the word out? Or
Well,
to,
just emergency management for
yes.
the potential disasters.
Yes.
You know, I no longer know how deep the system is.
It's pretty deep.
Resources of material and people and training to get there.
Well, you know, Roaring Fork Regional Fire is a combined agency with paid and volunteer, as well as the Aspen Fire Department is now. So the response time is much greater than it was in Aspen even a year or two ago.
Much shorter. The response time is
Is less.
better.
Yes.
Better, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
So, and that, you know, with wildland fire, you want to get it out before it blows up.
Right.
And that's happened. They've gotten small fires out before they became major fires. And I think that has a lot to do with the combined fire departments of volunteers and paid.
All right. We have a few minutes left. And we want to make sure that you have the opportunity to say what you think you should say that we may not have covered. You know, of why should we vote for Michael?
I think the people of Pitkin County should vote for me because of my 4 pillars that I stand on and have not wavered since. I read things in the paper that I haven't said what I'm running on, and it hasn't changed since March 4th. It's been out there. It's on my website. I say it everywhere I go. That we need better mental health care and substance abuse. We don't need a new jail. We can make Pitkin County safer. We know it's safe. That's why everybody's moving here. And we need housing for our deputies. That's why the people of Pitkin County should vote for me, because I'll bring new energy and new blood to the sheriff's office.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Well,
Sounds great.
we appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today, and hope we covered everything that
I think
needs
so.
to be covered.
I think so. I appreciate both of you for having me.
Well, it's good to get to know you a little better, and I hope our viewers have found the same thing.
I hope so too.
And
Well, and we'd like to reiterate where we started in a sense, which is it's really important to get out and vote. This is the election where you get to pick your next sheriff for the next 4 years. We hope that we've helped with you maybe understanding a little bit more as to why Michael is running. And thank you to the folks at the Aspen Thrift Shop for the funding to GrassRoots and to this program to make this program possible.